The heart monitor flatlined with a long, piercing beep that echoed through the sterile hospital room like a final verdict. Emily Harper, 28, brilliant young doctor with a future as bright as the Manhattan skyline, lay motionless on the bed, her white skin pale against the crisp sheets. Auburn hair fanned out on the pillow like spilled blood. The crash had been brutal, a drunk driver running a red light, metal twisting, glass shattering, her body thrown like a discarded doll. Doctors had fought for hours, but the internal bleeding was too severe. She was gone. Then, impossibly, the line on the monitor twitched. Once, twice. A steady rhythm returned. Nurses rushed in, shouting orders. Defibrillator paddles charged and ready. But there was no need. Emily's eyes snapped open, green irises wide with terror and confusion. She gasped, chest heaving as if surfacing from deep water. "Where?" Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. The room spun familiar yet wrong. This was St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, 5 years earlier. She knew because the calendar on the wall read March 2019, and the face staring back from the window reflection was younger, unscarred by the bitterness that had defined her last years. In her previous life, this was the exact moment everything began to unravel. The door swung open, and there he was, Alexander Grant, tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, dark hair perfectly styled, blue eyes filled with practiced concern. Her fiancé, the man who would destroy her. "Emily, thank God you're awake." He rushed to her side, taking her hand gently, his thumb brushing her knuckles in that way that once made her heart flutter. Now it made her stomach turn. Memories flooded back not just of the accident, but of everything after. How she had sacrificed her residency dreams to support his meteoric rise at the prestigious law firm. How she had pulled strings, using a favor from a powerful judge she saved on the operating table, to get Alexander his big break. How he repaid her by cheating with her supposed best friend Sophia, framing her for medical malpractice, stripping her of her license, her reputation, her everything, leaving her to die alone in a dingy apartment, broken and forgotten. But now she was back. Reborn in her own body at the precise moment before the betrayal began. Some called it a miracle, others a glitch in time, a soul yanked back by sheer will or cosmic mercy. Emily didn't care about the why, only the what now. Alexander leaned in, kissing her forehead. "You scared me, baby. The doctors said it was touch and go." His voice was smooth, concerned the perfect performance. She searched his face for cracks, but he was too good, too polished. In her past life, she had believed every word. This time, she saw the calculation beneath the charm. "Alexander?" She forced a weak smile, playing the part of the grateful fiancé. "I'm okay, just tired." He squeezed her hand tighter. "Rest. I'll handle everything. Work's been calling nonstop. But you're my priority." Liar, she thought, even now. His phone buzzed incessantly in his pocket messages from Sophia. No doubt. Emily closed her eyes, feigning exhaustion, but her mind raced. This was her second chance. She wouldn't waste it on blind trust. As Alexander stepped out to take a call, she reached for her phone on the bedside table. The screen lit up with notifications. One text from 5 years ago. Wait, no. Current time caught her eye. It was from Sophia. "Can't wait to celebrate your recovery tonight. Drinks on me? Alex says he'll be there too." The winking emoji burned like acid. Already starting. In her past life, that night out had been the beginning of the end. Sophia getting her drunk, planting doubts about Alexander's late nights. Emily's fingers hovered over the reply button. She typed slowly. "Sounds perfect. See you both." Send. Let them think she was the same naive Emily. Outside the window, New York hummed with life taxis honking, lights twinkling. She had died resenting this city, resenting him. Now, it felt like a battlefield she finally knew how to navigate. A nurse entered to check vitals, smiling warmly. "Welcome back, Dr. Harper. You had us all worried." Emily nodded, her grip tightening on the phone. Welcome back indeed. Discharged after a week of observation. Emily returned to their sleek Upper East Side apartment, the one she'd helped pay for with grueling ER shifts while Alexander climbed the corporate ladder. Everything looked the same modern furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, framed photos of them smiling in better times. But the air felt toxic now, laced with impending deceit. Alexander was attentive at first, bringing flowers, cooking dinner rare for him, insisting she rest. "No work until you're fully recovered," he said, kissing her cheek. She played along, thanking him sweetly, but inside she cataloged every micro-expression, every lingering glance at his phone. The judge she had saved, Richard Hale, was recovering well in VIP care. In her past life, Hale had owed her a favor, promising anything. She had selflessly asked him to consider Alexander for a high-profile case that launched his career. This time, she kept silent about it during visits, focusing on Hale's health, building quiet trust. "You're an exceptional doctor, Emily," Hale told her during one checkup. "If there's ever anything I can do." She smiled. "Just get better, Judge. That's enough." Alexander noticed her restraint. "You didn't mention me to Hale," he asked casually one evening over wine. She shrugged. "You're already doing great on your own merit." His eyes narrowed slightly, suspicion or disappointment, but he recovered with a grin. "True, but teamwork makes the dream work." Meanwhile, Sophia inserted herself seamlessly. Texts turned into visits. "Bestie time," she'd announce. Breezing in with designer bags and fake concern, Sophia Reynolds blonde, ambitious, always perfectly put together, was a junior partner at Alexander's firm, supposedly Emily's college friend. In truth, jealousy had festered in her since med school, when Emily outshone everyone. Now, Sophia saw opportunity at a recovery celebration dinner at their favorite Italian spot. The betrayal ignited. Alexander raised a glass. "To Emily, the strongest woman I know." Sophia clinked hers enthusiastically. "And to Alexander, for being the perfect fiancé." Their eyes met a fraction too long. Emily pretended not to notice, laughing along. Later, in the restroom, Sophia cornered her. "You look tired. Stress from the accident." Emily met her gaze in the mirror. "I'm fine. Thanks for worrying." Sophia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Good, because Alexander's under a lot of pressure at work. He needs support." Translation: stay out of his way. Back home, Alexander was distant, buried in case files. Emily waited until he slept, then checked his phone unlocked. Arrogantly. Messages with Sophia. "Can't stop thinking about last week." Soon, she's still fragile. Her blood ran cold, but not with shock, with rage. The affair had started earlier than she remembered. She photographed everything, emailed copies to herself. The next day, Alexander announced a late client meeting. Emily nodded supportively. "Have fun?" Alone, she followed him discreetly, in a cab across town to a boutique hotel. Through the lobby glass, she watched them meet, his hand on Sophia's back, intimate laughter. She snapped photos from afar. Evidence one. That night, he returned smelling of perfume, claiming exhaustion. Emily cuddled close. "Missed you." He stiffened slightly, guilt, then relaxed. "Me too." Lies. Days blurred into a false peace. Emily resumed light duties at the hospital, excelling, earning praise. Alexander's promotion talks heated up, but without Hale's nudge, progress stalled. He grew irritable. Sophia visited more, dropping hints. "Alexander deserves partner. He's brilliant." Emily smiled tightly. One evening, post-meeting, Alexander came home tipsy, amorous. They made love mechanical for her, fueled by memories of real passion. Afterward, he murmured, "You're everything to me." Then, half asleep, Sophia's been a good friend through this. Emily froze. What kind of friend? He backpedaled quickly. Work stuff, nothing else. But the seed was planted. She confronted lightly next morning. If something's going on, tell me. Alexander laughed it off, then turned serious, cupping her face. Baby, I'd never hurt you. It was a mistake once, stress. It's over. He knelt, tears in eyes Oscar-worthy. Forgive me. Emily's heart wavered. In her past life, she had forgiven, and it destroyed her. Now, seeing his manipulation, she nearly broke. I need time. His face hardened briefly before softening. Take all you need. I love you. That night, alone, Emily wept not for him, but for the woman she'd been. Blind, trusting, weak, no more. She transferred the photos to a secure drive. Evidence 2 bank transfers from Alexander to Sophia, disguised as consulting fees. The web was tightening. At a firm gala, Sophia pulled her aside. He's mine now, Emily. Move on. Venom dripped. Emily smiled coldly. We'll see. Alexander proposed publicly that night on one knee, ring gleaming to reaffirm their commitment. Cheers erupted. Emily accepted the ring, but inside, resolve hardened like steel. The game had begun. She wouldn't just survive this time, she'd win. Emily slipped the engagement ring off her finger the morning after the gala and left it on the kitchen counter next to Alexander's coffee mug. No note, no explanation, just the diamond catching the early sunlight like a cold accusation. He called her 5 times before noon, voice shifting from confusion to anger, demanding answers she refused to give over the phone. She met him that evening at a quiet bar near the hospital, the kind of place where doctors drowned long shifts and lawyers pretended to have souls. Alexander arrived in a rush, tie loosened, face flushed. What the hell is this? Emily, you humiliate me in front of the entire firm and then ghost me. She sipped her whiskey slowly, watching him over the rim. I'm not humiliating you. Alexander, I'm done pretending. He laughed, sharp and disbelieving. Pretending? We've been together 7 years. You don't just walk away. Emily set the glass down, voice steady. I do when I know you've been sleeping with Sophia for months. When I know you've been using me as a stepping stone while planning your exit. His expression flickered, guilt buried under layers of practiced charm, but not fast enough. That's insane. Sophia's a colleague, a friend. Stop! She cut him off, sliding a folder across the table. Printouts of their messages, hotel receipts, the photos she'd taken, his face drained of color. Where did you get these? Doesn't matter. What matters is, I see you now. All of you. He reached for her hand. She pulled back. Baby, listen. It was a mistake. Pressure from the firm. The hours I got weak. It meant nothing. The same words from her past life, delivered with the same crocodile tears. She felt the old pull, the part of her that once loved him desperately, whispering to forgive, to fix it. For a moment she wavered, heart pounding. Was it weakness when you started planning how to discredit me at work? When you and Sophia discussed framing me for a malpractice suit, so I'd be too broken to fight when you left. His silence was answer enough. Emily stood. I'm keeping the apartment until the lease ends. You'll find somewhere else. He grabbed her wrist as she turned. You need me. Emily, your career's good, but without my connections. She laughed quietly, pulling free. I never needed you. You needed me. The words landed like a slap. She walked out into the cold night air feeling lighter than she had in years. The weeks that followed were brutal. Sophia wasted no time spreading poison at the hospital. Subtle rumors that Emily was unstable after the accident, popping pills, making mistakes in the ER. Charts went missing. Notes were altered just enough to raise questions. An anonymous complaint triggered an internal review. Emily sat through meetings with administration, forced to defend herself while colleagues whispered behind her back. One night, after a 12-hour shift, she came home to an empty apartment, poured a glass of wine. and sat on the floor crying. Not for Alexander, but for the exhaustion of fighting alone. She stared at her reflection in the dark window and asked aloud, "Am I becoming as ruthless as them?" The thought terrified her. Revenge tasted sharp, but it was starting to feel like poison she was drinking too. Daniel Carter, a fellow surgeon who'd always been friendly in a quiet way, found her in the doctor's lounge at 3 a.m., staring blankly at a cold cup of coffee. He didn't pry, just sat beside her and said, "Whatever it is, you're not alone unless you choose to be." Something in his steady presence cracked her armor. She told him parts of it, not the rebirth, never that, but the betrayal, the sabotage. He listened without judgment. "They're afraid of you, Emily. Strong women scare people who need control." His words stayed with her. She started small acts of self-reclamation early mornings at the gym, building strength in body to match the steel growing inside. Late nights studying legal statutes, learning the system Alexander wielded so well. Quiet conversations with Judge Hale during follow-ups, never asking for favors, just letting him see her integrity, her skill. One afternoon, Sophia cornered her in the hospital cafeteria, voice syrupy with false concern, while eyes gleamed with triumph. "You look tired, Em. All this stress can't be good for recovery." Emily met her gaze evenly. "I'm sleeping just fine, Sophia. How about you guilt keeping you up?" Sophia's smile faltered. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Emily leaned in close enough to smell her perfume. "You will." She walked away before Sophia could respond, heart racing, but head high. That night she recorded a conversation. Sophia drunk on victory wine at a bar with mutual friends, bragging about handling Emily, hinting at the forged documents she'd planted. Emily played it back alone, finger hovering over delete. This was crossing a line. She could still walk away, expose them cleanly, keep her hands unstained. But then she remembered waking up broke and disgraced in her past life, license revoked, friends gone, dying alone. She saved the file instead. The awakening wasn't clean or pretty. It was raw, painful, full of doubt. But it was hers. The first domino fell quietly. Emily sent an anonymous packet to the firm's ethics board screenshots of Alexander accepting consulting fees from a client with ties to organized crime. Money funneled through shell accounts Sophia had helped set up. No direct accusation. Just enough questions to trigger an audit. Alexander's promotion froze overnight. He stormed into the apartment, face twisted with rage. "This was you." Emily looked up from her laptop, calm. Prove it. He couldn't. And that ate at him more than anything. Sophia struck back harder, leaking altered medical records, suggesting Emily had mishandled a patient's pain meds during residency. Old enough to be plausible, damaging enough to threaten her license. The hospital suspended her pending investigation. For 3 days, Emily walked around in a fog, fear clawing at her throat. Daniel found her on a park bench in the rain, refusing an umbrella. "They're trying to break you," he said, sitting beside her. "Don't let them." She turned to him, voice breaking. "What if I deserve this? What if I'm no better than they are?" He took her hand. "You're fighting for your life. That's not the same as destroying someone else's." His certainty anchored her. She hired a forensic document expert with savings she'd hidden, proved the alterations, turned the tables. The complaint traced back to Sophia's IP address. The hospital reinstated Emily with an apology and a quiet promotion. Alexander's world unraveled faster. Clients pulled away, partners distanced themselves. He showed up at the hospital, begging, looking smaller than she'd ever seen him. "Help me fix this. Emily, please. I was wrong. I know that now." For a moment, she saw the man she'd once loved, scared and lost. Her hand twitched toward his. Then she remembered his voice in the past life, cold and final. "You're nothing without me." She stepped back. No. The public confrontation came at the firm's annual charity ball. Black tie glamour masking cutthroat ambition. Alexander and Sophia were there together now, no longer hiding, her hand on his arm like a victory flag. Emily arrived late, stunning in emerald silk, Daniel at her side as her date. Whispers followed her. She waited until Alexander was on stage, accepting an award for integrity and advocacy, irony thick enough to choke on. Midway through his speech, she stood, voice cutting through the ballroom. Integrity. That's rich coming from a man who built his career on bribes and betrayal. Gasps rippled. She projected evidence onto the screen behind him. Bank transfers, emails, the hotel photos time-stamped with case meetings he claimed to attend. Alexander froze, microphone trembling in his hand. This is a lie. Security moved toward her, but Judge Hale, guest of honor, raised a hand. Let her speak. Emily laid it all bare, voice steady. Every betrayal, every lie. Sophia tried to flee, but reporters blocked the exits. Cameras flashing. Alexander lunged at Emily in blind panic. You bitch! You have no idea what you've done! Daniel intercepted, restraining him effortlessly, while security finally dragged Alexander away. Sophia collapsed in tears, makeup streaking, screaming that Emily had ruined her life. Emily looked down at her former friend and felt nothing. Not triumph, not pity, just exhaustion. Later, alone on the balcony overlooking the city, Daniel found her. You okay? She shook her head. I thought revenge would feel better. He stood beside her quietly. It rarely does. In the weeks that followed, Alexander was disbarred pending trial. Sophia fired and blacklisted. But victory came at a cost. Emily couldn't sleep without nightmares of that ballroom, of Alexander's broken face, of wondering if she'd become the monster. She pushed Daniel away when he tried to get closer, terrified of trusting again. The revenge was complete, but the war inside her had only just begun. The fallout hit like a storm tearing through Manhattan. Front-page headlines screamed corruption at one of the city's oldest law firms. Alexander Grant's name splashed across every tabloid and legal blog as the poster boy for ethical collapse. Disbarment proceedings began within days. Federal investigators seized his accounts, and clients fled in droves. Sophia's name surfaced next. Her role in falsifying documents and planting evidence laid bare by the same digital trail she'd once used against Emily. She was fired without severance, her license suspended pending review. Reporters camped outside their buildings, microphones thrust forward like spears. Alexander tried to play victim at first. Tearful press conferences claiming a vengeful ex-fiancé had fabricated everything out of jealousy. But the evidence was ironclad. Bank records, emails, timestamps that matched court filings he'd sworn were legitimate. Public opinion turned vicious. At a tense family dinner his parents hosted to discuss strategy, his mother clutched her pearls and whispered that people at the country club were asking questions. His father stared at him with quiet disgust. We taught you better than this, son. For the first time, Alexander looked small, cornered, the golden boy mask cracking. He showed up at Emily's apartment unannounced one rainy night, soaked and unshaven, eyes red from lack of sleep or tears. She couldn't tell. Emily, he said through the chained door, voice breaking. I was wrong. About everything. My father, he's sick, cancer, stage 4. The pressure to make partner before it's too late, it broke me. I thought if I secured our future. She stared at him, rain drumming on the fire escape behind him. In her past life, she'd never seen this vulnerability, never knew about his father's illness because he'd hidden it, used it as fuel for ambition instead of honesty. Part of her softened, the old Emily surfacing like a ghost, wanting to comfort, to forgive. You could have told me, she said quietly. We could have faced it together. He nodded, tears falling freely now. I know. I was scared. Scared of failing him, failing us. Sophia, she made it easy to escape into something that felt like control. The confession hung between them, raw and human. For a moment, Emily imagined opening the door, letting him in, rewriting the ending. Then she remembered the cold precision of his betrayal in her previous life, the way he'd watched her license hearing without flinching, how he'd walked away when she needed him most. Forgiveness wasn't the same as absolution. I'm sorry for your father, she said finally. Truly, But sorry doesn't undo what you did to me. Not once, but twice if you count the life you took from me before. His face crumpled. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just needed you to know it wasn't all calculation. Part of me really loved you. She closed the door without another word, leaning against it as his footsteps faded down the hall. Sophia's downfall was uglier. Cornered by reporters outside her apartment, she lashed out, blaming Alexander, blaming the firm, blaming everyone but herself until a childhood friend came forward with old letters proving Sophia's jealousy dated back to college. When Emily had earned a prestigious residency Sophia wanted, the public devoured it, another layer of karma peeling back. At her disciplinary hearing, Sophia finally cracked, sobbing that her parents had abandoned her young, that success was the only way she felt worthy. Emily always had everything, she whispered to the panel. Talent, love, respect. I just wanted some of it. The confession humanized her for some, but not enough to save her career. Emily watched from afar, reading updates during quiet moments at the hospital. Judge Hale called personally after the ball, voice grave. You did what the system should have done years ago. Dr. Harper, I'm recommending a full investigation into every case Grant touched. His support opened doors. Her reputation not just restored, but elevated. She was offered a leadership role in hospital ethics, tasked with creating protocols to protect whistleblowers and prevent exactly what had happened to her. She accepted, pouring her pain into purpose. Media requests flooded in, women who had been similarly betrayed or sabotaged reaching out for advice, for hope. Emily started speaking at conferences, not about revenge, but resilience, about recognizing manipulation early, about valuing yourself enough to walk away. The work healed something in her, turned scars into strength. Daniel stayed close through it all, never pushing, just present. Late nights reviewing case files turned into coffee, then dinners, his quiet humor cutting through her lingering darkness. But when he leaned in to kiss her after a particularly brutal day of testimony, she pulled back. I can't, she whispered. Not yet. The cost of revenge revealed itself in small ways. Sleepless nights wondering if she'd gone too far, if the ballroom humiliation had stripped Alexander of more than his career. She saw a therapist, unpacked the trauma of 2 lives, learned that strength wasn't the absence of doubt, but moving forward anyway. Karma completed its circle quietly. Alexander took a plea deal, 3 years in federal prison for bribery and fraud. Sophia moved back to her small hometown, working odd jobs, anonymous. Emily visited Alexander once, at his request, in the sterile visiting room. He looked older, prison pallor replacing his tan. I think about you every day, he said softly. Not with hate, with regret. She nodded. Good. Live with it. She walked out without looking back, the weight finally lifting. 2 years later, Emily stood on the rooftop of her new brownstone in Brooklyn, city lights glittering below like scattered diamonds. The practice she founded specialized in women's health and advocacy, funded partly by settlements from the firm and quiet donations from Judge Hale's network. Her days were full, meaningful, no longer defined by what she'd lost, but what she'd built. Daniel had waited, patient as ever, their friendship deepening into something steady and real. They dated slowly, his hand in hers during walks through Prospect Park, late-night talks where she finally told him fragments of the accident that felt like dying and waking reborn. He never pressed for more, just held her when nightmares came. On a crisp autumn evening, he proposed not with grand gestures, but simplicity, ring in his pocket during a quiet dinner at home. I don't need you to be fixed, Emily. I just want to be beside you while you keep becoming whoever you're meant to be. She said yes, tears falling freely for the first time in joy rather than pain. Their wedding was small, intimate, held in a garden upstate with only close friends and family who had stood by her. She wore ivory lace, walked herself down the aisle because she no longer needed anyone to give her away. Alexander sent a letter from prison. Simple words of congratulations and apology, no expectation of reply. She read it once and let it go. Sophia reached out through a mutual acquaintance. asking if Emily would ever forgive her. Emily thought about it for days, then sent a short note. "I release the hate. That doesn't mean I forget. Wishing you peace." It was as close to absolution as she could offer. Life settled into a rhythm of ordinary miracles. Mornings with coffee and Daniel's laughter, surgeries that saved lives, mentoring young doctors who'd faced their own battles. She published a book anonymously at first, then under her name, about surviving betrayal and reclaiming power. It became a quiet bestseller. Women writing to say it gave them courage to leave, to fight, to heal. Some nights she still woke gasping from dreams of the crash, of Alexander's cold eyes in another life. But Daniel was always there, grounding her in the present. They talked about children eventually, not to complete her, but because the idea of raising a daughter to know her worth from day one filled Emily with fierce joy. On quiet evenings, she stood on that same rooftop, wind in her hair, and felt the full circle. The girl who had died broken was gone. In her place stood a woman who had faced monsters, become one for a while in the dark, and chosen light anyway. Happiness wasn't the absence of pain, but the presence of choice, of love freely given and received. Somewhere across the city, Alexander served his time, carrying regret like a shadow. Sophia rebuilt quietly, perhaps finding small redemptions. Their stories continued without her, as hers did without them. Emily looked up at the stars, rare and bright above urban glow, and smiled. This life was hers, fully, finally, and it was enough.